this planet has unique qualities that set it apart from other species. We humans have the ability to focus our attention on our thoughts, feelings, and desires. In short, we have a sense of self. In this lecture, we will learn all about the nature, origins, and functions of the self, to include external influences on the self concept. Also, how we come to know the self, and what is self-regulation, and how do we use self-regulation to better ourselves. Well, in some ways, the self is private. Only you know what it's like from your point of view. Yet the self is also a thoroughly social thing. People's culture and social environments profoundly shape how they understand and experience the self, and the self significantly influences how they think, feel, and act towards the social world. But first, let us review two definitions. 1. Self-concept. Self-concept is a person's knowledge about themselves, including one's own traits, social identities, and experience. Ego is the aspect of the self that directs one's thoughts and actions. Now, what knowledge makes up the self-concept? Each individual has unique knowledge about him or herself accumulated over years of personal experience. These experiences are heavily influenced by culture, gender, and the social situation. As you already know, culture shapes virtually all the ways that people describe themselves. When you are asked the question, "Who are you?" your first response is usually your name. So yes, people's self-concept emerges as they are socialized into the cultural worldview conveyed by their parents, teachers, and the mass media. Culture shapes virtually all the ways people describe themselves. According to social identity theory, people define themselves largely in terms of the social groups with which they identify. They come to know that characteristics they have by thinking of themselves in terms of family, race, nationality, and other important group members like religion, sexual identity, or orientation. Now let's talk about how gender influences the self-concept. Men and women are more similar than they are different. Some children learn from adults and the broader culture regarding gender behavior. Social role theory claims that men and women's biological differences favor different social roles. Now, please be aware that this topic is highly controversial and definitions are being changed and shifted every day. So it is your responsibility to know what the current definitions of gender, gender role, gender identity, gender expression, and so forth. You need to be kept abreast of current definitions used not only in the college setting, but also at the workplace. Now let's move on to situational influences on the self. The self-concept is stable from one occasion to another because people have self-schemas for the attributes that are important to them. According to Hazel Marcus in 1977, people are likely to have a lot of knowledge about self-defining attributes. This knowledge is mentally organized as a self-schema. An integrated set of memories, beliefs, and generalizations about an attribute that is central to one's self-concept. The self-concept is also malleable. Features of the social situation, such as solo status, highlight different self-knowledge, changing the contents of one's working self-concept at any given moment. So, how do we come to know the self? Reflections, comparisons, and self-perceptions are three important ways that people learn about themselves during the course of their everyday social interactions. Let's take reflection, for example. People learn about the self by assessing how others view them. That's called appraisal. But nevertheless, people do not always perceive accurately what others think of them. Now, in regards to comparison, people learn about the self by comparing themselves to others, especially those in similar circumstances. Upward social comparisons can threaten one's self-esteem. Downward comparisons can enhance it. Now, when talking about self-perception, people learn about the self by observing their own behavior and making inferences about their traits, abilities, and their values. Self-regulation is a great word for you to know. It is a set of processes for guiding one's thoughts, feelings, and behavior to reach desired goals. The ability to self-regulate is based on three key capacities of the human mind. First, we are self-aware, able to assess our thoughts, feelings, and behavior in relation to the world around us. Second, we can imagine abstract goals and hypothetical outcomes, such as curing cancer or being more compassionate. And third, we are able to mentally travel in time, to pop out of here and there, and now to reach back in our past and envision the distant future. Self-regulation challenges are as follows. Research had discovered numerous factors that make self-regulation difficult. These findings point to some concrete strategies that people can use to improve self-regulation and achieve their goals. Now let's get into the self-esteem motive. What is self-esteem and where does it come from? Self-esteem is the level of positive feeling you have about yourself, the extent to which you value yourself. Self-esteem is generally thought of as a trait, a general attitude towards the self ranging from very positive to very negative. Researchers have developed a number of self-report measures to assess self-esteem in both children and adults. And I'm sure you've heard of self-esteem in terms of having low self-esteem or high self-esteem. There are also some tests, some easy free tests that you could take online to measure your self-esteem. As we navigate through our social worlds, we encounter a seemingly limitless cascade of challenges and events that can potentially threaten us in regards to our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves as a person of worth. Now, focus on yourself for a moment. What are the soft spots in your self-esteem armor? Of course, it's never easy to admit or think about such things, but the more we understand about ourselves, ultimately, the better off we are. How can we maintain self-esteem in light of all these potential threats? It turns out that people use many strategies to defend their self-esteem and enhance it when possible. Some defenses to protect self-esteem are the self-serving attributions, seeing self as better than average, protection, compensation, and self-affirmation, also social comparison. The term self-efficacy refers to an individual's confidence in their ability to complete a task or achieve a goal. The concept was originally developed by Albert Bandura. Today, psychologists contend that our sense of self-efficacy can influence whether we actually succeed at a task. So, in summary, the term self-concept refers to the view someone has on themselves after evaluating their own beliefs, physical and mental attributes, likes and dislikes, and strengths and weaknesses. Self-concept examples can include a positive view of oneself, such as feeling outgoing and successful, or a negative view of oneself, such as feeling unlikable and like a failure. While self-concept is the view someone has of themselves, self-efficacy and self-esteem are other self-constructs with slightly different aspects. Self-esteem is a person's sense of their value or worth, is a component of self-concept. People determine their worth after evaluating their own characteristics and forming an opinion of themselves. Now, self-efficacy is an individual's belief that they can do certain things based on how they view themselves and how successful they have been in the past. While these constructs lead to a better understanding of oneself, each requires different steps and produces different results. Self-concept leads to an overall opinion of oneself. Self-esteem determines a person's view of their worth, and self-efficacy focuses on what a person believes they can accomplish. Don't forget, with self-regulation, it is a set of processes for guiding one's thoughts, feelings, and behavior to reach a desired goal. In my next lecture, we will talk all about cognitive dissonance. What is it?